So, judging by our last video, you've probably gathered that we would be delving into the last and final death of the famous five, and that would be Mary Jane Kelly, the final victim.
Or was she?
This is what this is what we're going to discuss.
I know.
We've got this in the bag. We know what we're doing.
I know.
It's done. So, if you like the Jack the Ripper, I guess it was the reopen case. But if you like the first one and the reopen one, I'm sure you're going to like this one. Maybe. Most people do like these more than the others. Kind of sad, really.
Yeah, but
We must do a good job on the Jack the Ripper, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't already, subscribe, like the video and share it. I'm sure... I'm just sure someone will eventually.
Only takes one or two. And then we can build, hopefully.
We
Never
can
know.
build up, get bigger. Kind of feels lonely only having this many subscribers. But we'll crack into it straight away. And as I said, most of you probably would have gathered we were going to delve into this. And after we finished our Jack the Ripper reopened case, we actually sat here and had a pretty long discussion. I think it lasted probably about an hour.
Oh yeah.
And we got really into the whole death of Mary Jane Kelly, and we couldn't quite figure out a lot of things that seemed to not add up. But I guess, like, for now, we're going to go through a bit of her life story, told by her, because no one seems to have any evidence of her life.
No.
And then obviously we'll come up with what actually happened, and then we'll obviously delve into our theories of what we may have thought that happened. Yeah, that's usually how the Unsettled works.
Yeah.
But this isn't really Unsettled as such.
No, it's kind of a bonus episode.
They always get bonuses.
I know.
When are we going to get a bonus? At this point, I'd rather be a dog with a job.
That's a whole different argument.
So like I said, we're going to delve into her life and basically try and work out the time frames, which don't seem to add up across many statements and online resources, especially Wikipedia. That really didn't add up.
No.
So yeah, basically we're just going to delve straight into this, and I'm sure many of you will thoroughly enjoy it. So, amongst the hellish streets of Whitechapel, women huddled together out of fear and comfort, as a devil preyed upon the pathways, longing for the final cut. Is that more of a...
It is a bit.
It is a bit, isn't it?
It's a bit. You've gone softer, but still.
It's a bit better. A month had passed and still no sign of Jack. Had he been caught already, or was he now waiting to carve his name in history, as his first 4 cuts didn't quite leave the hellish impression he wanted? That was a bit more of a horror, wasn't it?
No, yes.
Yeah, see. Everyone at night knew the devil had his eyes upon them. I suppose they would feel like that. If you were a woman at night in that era,
you'd feel watched
all the time. Yeah. And that would then...
And you'd feel preyed upon.
But then I suppose they probably didn't really expect it to happen to them at this point, because a month had passed.
Yeah, true.
So maybe it was
maybe
just...
starting to die down a bit, like the thing. But then throughout, like back then, we've been told that it was like
there were still murders going on.
It was still the most shittest part of London.
So Mary Jane Kelly, the alleged final victim of the famous five, would either live to tell the tale of Jack or meet Hell's Maker. So you like that bit as well, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Alas, the final cut was merely moments away, and the devil of Whitechapel was riding upon her shoulder. The story of Mary Jane Kelly is nothing more than murmurs among others, which we kind of gathered.
Yeah.
So, be it the lies she may have told or the truth, it could all be hearsay, as we both kind of gathered throughout the information we found.
Yeah.
Thus making her life story simply a mystery to be rewritten over time. But we shall just go straight into most of this now, I think, and then just see how it kind of all plays out. So, Mary Jane Kelly was born in Limerick, Ireland. After her family moved to Wales, she married at the age of 16 to a man named Davies. I'm guessing it's Davies or Davis. It depends where you look.
Well, it depends where you live. Some people would spell it as Davies.
Yeah.
And then some people
Is Davis.
Yeah, Davis.
However, she was a widow soon after, as 2 years later her husband died during a mining explosion. Now, like I said, this is hearsay at this point in time. So, she moved to Cardiff, where she allegedly fled into the world of prostitution and spent time with well-to-do gentlemen. Now, we've kind of gathered that Mary Jane Kelly actually came from a wealthy background.
Yeah.
She also hang around with upper-class gentlemen and not so much the lower class.
Yeah, so she... to put it across that she was a prostitute is a bit rich. It was...
Nice pun.
Oh, yes. It was...
Nice pun.
It was more... It was more than she was actually, like, a top-end escort. Because, like, back then, she'd even said that she didn't really do sexual favours. It was more of...
She liked the wealthy lifestyle, I think.
Go to dinner dates and so on and so forth.
So, allegedly, she accompanied a man to Paris and changed her name to Mary Jeanette. Or Marie Jeanette.
Marie Jeanette.
Jeanette. And reportedly lived the life of a lady. Now, this doesn't come across as an East End prostitute to me.
No.
It doesn't. It comes across as someone that knows men very well, which probably works the system.
Top-end circles.
Yeah, see? She also made claims she came from a well-off family. Mary arrived in the East End of London in 1883-1884. Why the fuck would you go to the East End? What Mary may not realise is what many may not realise is Mary was auburn and a redhead with blue eyes, and apparently really attractive, don't forget.
And very pale skin.
Yeah, this caught the attention of Joseph Barnett. They met on a Good Friday, got on extremely well, and soon moved in together. They shared a few places together from George Street to Dorset Street.
Yeah.
And then obviously to Miller's Court.
Right. And he was a fish porter at Billingsgate Fish Market. I know, it's a bit fishy, isn't it?
I'm done. I'm done, that was bad.
That was bad.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
The couple had a stable life. A very stable life at this point. But it was disturbed when Joseph lost his job as, like you said, a fishmonger. And Mary went back on the streets, and of course Joseph didn't approve. I mean, why would he? Why would any man approve of your partner going out on the streets and doing sexual shit?
No.
It's...
No.
No.
No. Definitely not.
Why would you share the woman that you love with
every, not being funny, but every Tom, Dick and Harry?
A lot of dicks. This led to a lot of arguments and aggressive behaviour, but not from Joseph. It actually came from Mary instead.
Which you would expect from a redhead, fiery Irish lady. Not gonna lie.
Mary, at the time, happily took to the bottle, and this obviously didn't help matters. Joseph moved out after Mary smashed a window in their room. He moved out to save the relationship and give one another breathing space, despite them no longer living together, as you stated like earlier in your notes towards me. He was rehomed and they still remain close. Yeah. And he would often help her to pay for her rent. Which I thought this guy actually genuinely loved this woman.
There's still feelings there.
Yeah, I was like, he genuinely loved this woman. I also wrote down, nice chap, like him a lot, good soul.
He is. He's very innocent and he's only, I think, 4 years older than Mary.
On the evening of November the 8th, 1888, he saw Mary for the last time. The Ten Bells pub was a place many drank. Police officers, local riffraff, prostitutes, anyone and everyone would be there. Sounds like my type of place, to be fair. Could you see me galloping into the Ten Bells?
I can see me galloping out.
What, as I walk in, you're like, no, I'm not putting up with his shenanigans.
when the fights break out.
As soon as he turns up, everyone leaves. Bastards. Mary was seen drinking with a woman named Elizabeth in this place. Then soon on later, she appeared very drunk on this fateful night. Very drunk. These are apparently statements that she was very drunk and she was seen with one of her friends called Elizabeth. But to me, it doesn't settle well with me, quite frankly. Some other important statements came forward, which included more sightings. Apparently Mary and Cox saw Mary at 11:45 looking rough. She saw Mary going into a room with a man, but shortly after, he left. Mary was heard singing and being merry from this room. So already we can say that she was alive in this room. At 2 a.m. on the morning, the second sighting took place. George Hutchinson, who knew Mary, met her out on the street. She seemed dressed up, and she asked for some money. He then bid her farewell. No, she then bid him farewell, as he had none. Which I thought was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have any money? No. Okay, good evening. Good evening. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Good evening. I bid you farewell, sir.
She then was approached by another person, who George couldn't see, and heard them both laughing. George decided to follow them. Fuck knows why. He's a bit of a perv. He didn't even know whether it was male or female that she'd met.
No, there's a few other contradictory statements saying it was a short, like fat, stubby guy with a hat tilted downwards. Others saying it was a short lady with a hood over her face. Others said it was a tall gentleman. Others said it was a tall.
But anyway, this guy called George seems to be following her around a lot.
Yeah,
because he's following her around at the moment. But he decided to follow them, and as I said, fuck knows why. I don't quite understand why you did. But I reckon George is our suspect. No, I reckon he is.
But then he could have just been soft, and you know what I mean?
Maybe he had a thing for her.
Maybe. Just wanted to make sure that she was got home alright or whatever.
He followed them both up until the point they both went into Mary's room. He walked away and then stopped and decided to stand there for a while.
Yeah, okay. This is where the weird bit comes down. Like, this is a weird man, but he's got good intentions.
He decided to wait around to see who was going to leave Mary's place. Like, to me, he sounds like a suspect.
It sounds suspect, but
maybe he was just looking out for the women of Whitechapel.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was just purely, as I said. Maybe he's got a soft thing for her and he just made sure she was alright.
She was alright.
It's alright.
It's alright. Right. It's alright. But no, she's alright. Yeah. Either way, like, if I knew someone that was out on the streets and they weren't meant to be out at that certain time, like, you'd probably follow them, to be fair, just to make sure they're okay. I'm not gonna lie, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
I don't know why you would stay, but
nowadays women would scream blue murder even if they knew you.
Oh,
like, ah! And run away. Like, oh, times of today. Times of today. But yeah, anyway, he waited around to see who would leave Mary's room. At around 4 a.m, cries of murder echoed Miller's Court. And here is where the scene is kind of set, because George noticed someone leave Mary's room, but he is unsure who left Mary's room.
Again, he didn't know whether it was male or female.
And to me, that just kind of makes me feel a bit weird in this whole situation. Yeah. He saw someone leave her room or her place, but he didn't know who.
No.
And he still didn't know who she was with.
No.
Well, I'm not being funny. You're in a certain area. You're bound to know something.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows everyone round here.
That is true.
One thing to notice about Mary's place also was the window was broken. So to me already it's kind of like a bit of a weird situation, because the window could have been broken from when her and Joseph had the argument. Yeah. Which I kind of think it probably did.
Back then it was. I would assume it was expensive to, pay for that sort of stuff to get replaced. Because you'd then have to go to a proper glazier rather than anything else.
I suppose you'd just have a glass slot put into place, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, and then it will be window pied round. But it's still expensive because you would have someone come and do it. You wouldn't do it yourself, kind of thing.
So anyway, the scene is set. 2 people went into Mary's place. 1 person left.
It's like the Thunder, doesn't it?
It is.
2 men enter, 1 man leave.
George didn't know who left. And cries of murder have echoed the streets of Whitechapel.
Throughout the streets.
But that was a common trait, as we know. It was a common trait to shout murder because everyone seemed to be doing it. Yeah. So as I said, one thing to notice was Mary's window was broken. I think this is really good, really weird. This is really, really good, weird. So Thomas Boyer, as we know this gentleman, worked for John McCarthy. John McCarthy simply
was the landlord.
Yep, he was the landlord for Mary's place. They knocked on the door to Mary's in the morning. Do you know what time frame? It was 10 o'clock, wasn't it?
10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m. They knocked on Mary's at the morning to collect the rent. No one answered. Yeah. He went round to the window, as he knew it was smashed, moved the curtain aside, and peered into the gloom of the room. Fire still burning. So the fire is burning. That's another thing that you should pay attention to at this point. There he saw a woman laying in an appalling condition. Blood, organs everywhere. Ripped and hacked. The body of possibly Mary Jane Kelly was mutilated.
Ew. Now, obviously, we've seen the picture.
I'm going to describe it. I'm going to make him feel sick.
Okay, but before you do describe it,
I'll wait.
I would just like to say, obviously, Thomas Boyer was an ex-soldier. He left the forces and basically to find work. He was basically a rent collector.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a.
He had the muscle. He had the look of.
Give me a rent.
Yeah,
kind of guy.
Just a collector going around getting money, however he could.
I guess he was a bit of a, how can I put it, a bit of a John McCarthy's bodyguard.
Yeah, it's basically like a bailsman, you know, like bail bondsman, where you like go in
and take
and get the money or take stuff equivalent. Yeah.
So, if you've ever looked up the death or the crime photo of Mary Jane Kelly, you don't like it at all, do you?
It's gross. It's disgusting.
I wish we could just throw it in here now, like, just to show the viewers.
Well, I probably could, but we'll probably get copyright slammed in our face for it.
Good point. But I'm going to describe to you the extent of this mutilation.
Check it out, if you will, though.
Yeah, I will describe to you probably the best way I know how. Is the floor mine?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, the body of... Oh, the alleged body of Mary Jane Kelly. Okay. The whole of the surface of the abdomen and thighs was removed, and the abdominal cavity emptied of its viscera. Doesn't sound that bad already. The breasts removed, arms mutilated and cut by several jagged wounds, and the face hacked beyond recognition. So that's something you need to pay attention to.
Yep.
Because the face is hacked beyond recognition.
That word. Beyond recognition.
That word does a couple of words there, but I'll let you off. The features on the face was non-existent. The tissues of the neck were severed all around down to the bone. It doesn't sound that gruesome.
Oh, you wait.
I swear I'm saying this word wrong, but we'll go over it. The viscera?
No, you are saying it right.
Am I?
Yes.
Wow. The viscera was found in various parts. The uterus and the kidneys with one breast placed under the head. The other breast by the right foot. What place to leave a breast?
Football.
Near your foot. Football. God's sake. Kid. Behave. Act your age.
I am.
The liver between the feet.
I don't know why that.
The intestines by the right side and the spleen by the left of her body. The flaps removed from the abdomen and her thighs on the table. The chest open, her heart was never found but was clearly removed. Sounds like someone literally got a chainsaw to the whole body and just took off the fatty parts. Her murder is the most unique because crime scene photos was taken. This is the only murder of Jack the Ripper where lengthy practical photos was taken, but only 2 of them survive today. Coincidentally. As a testament to how bad the carnage was, basically. That's how bad it had to be.
Now, walking in somewhere and going, how the hell is it everywhere?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck are we dealing with right here? So I did say earlier on that the fire was burning. The fire was actually burning with clothes, which we will delve into in a little second. But obviously the fireplace was burning. Yeah. And also, her other clothes was neatly folded. Which I still can't get my head around.
I don't. Why would... But we'll get into that as well.
Yeah. No other results in her apartment show a break-in, minus that window, which obviously
was already broken.
Which Joseph said later on in a statement happened when he was there.
Yeah.
So there is no break-in to Mary's place.
No.
And that bit kind of confuses me as well. But we'll probably realise why in a minute. Mary Jane Kelly was allegedly the last victim of Jack the Ripper, being murdered at the young age of 25. Yeah. Dr. Thomas Bond and Dr. George Bogster Phillips examined the body. They both timed her death 12 hours before examination. The horrific attack would have taken 2 hours to achieve, and they stated it was not the marks of a precision of anyone in the medical field / works in the butchers or anything like that.
Yeah.
So this was a pure hack job, basically. The death occurred between 2 and 8 a.m. These time frames are very, very specific to something else. So let's recount events. George Hutchinson saw Mary at 2 a.m. Already, she's not dead at 2 a.m. He also saw a woman / man leave Mary's later on after following her. He couldn't see who actually left, it was too dark. Yeah. So did Mary meet her killer at 2 a.m? Or did Mary leave accordingly? My stomach just literally agreed with him. Did you hear it? It was like, yeah, she left.
That's another thing.
It was like just saying, George Hutchinson said it was certain 2 people went into Mary's with one leaving half hour later.
Yeah.
What was the other thing?
Well, that's the thing. So you've got George saying that at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
They both went in.
He said no. He said he saw her at 2 a.m.
Saw her, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously he followed them.
Yeah,
and they went back.
Right. So obviously, then we heard that people were shouting murder.
At 4.
At 4. He said nothing about that.
No. Because someone left Mary's, and he thought, okay,
if they were shouting.
Yeah, but
murder and God knows else what around the
I'm with you.
Thing.
He never mentioned it.
He never mentioned hearing people shouting.
No. Maybe he was too focused on.
Maybe he was, but
not being funny. If people are out in the street and I hear shouting and I'm focused on talking to someone else, I'm not going to pay that much attention.
Well, when we get into the later bits, we'll see what time.
Okay. One witness who testified has left me confused, as you know. Caroline Maxwell claimed she saw Mary Jane Kelly on the 9th of November. Theoretically, she would have been dead by now.
Oh yeah, a whole day.
Yeah. She was not drunk and not wearing the same clothes she wore prior that evening. The confusing part is she saw Mary Jane Kelly in the morning. And yet the autopsy revealed between what? 8 and 2?
Between
2, yeah,
2
between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m.
And I think it was her. I think her one was at. She saw her at 10 a.m. I believe.
I didn't get a time frame for that one.
I'm pretty sure Maxwell was at the one at 10 a.m. that she saw her.
Lizzie Albrook, Mary Jane Kelly's neighbour, quoted, "She was heartily sick of the life she had there. Warned me not to go down the same route she was in, and said if she could find the way, she would take herself back to Ireland." I am...
Maybe she got her way.
So, first question. How do we know that the time frame and everything about it was exact? Because so far it doesn't add up. No. It doesn't add up at all. People claiming she'd been seen out and about, yet judging by the post-mortem she wouldn't have been seen. She would have been dead. Yeah. So that doesn't make sense. No. So that everyone's time frame's wrong. Yeah. How do we know the victim that suffered the horrific mutilation was actually Mary Jane Kelly anyway? We don't.
There we go.
And we don't know this because we have something funny to tell you all.
Yes.
All we have to go on is our partner Joseph Barnett saying, after looking at the body, he claimed, yes, that's Mary. Blue eyes and an ear were the only things he could use to say that that was Mary Jane Kelly. Yeah. Now, like I said to you before, loads of people have blue eyes.
I've got a percentage for you.
Go on.
So, London, for some weird reason, there was 80% of all the people, male and female, 80% had blue eyes.
He described her body by her eyes, which you cannot even see in the photo.
No.
Because they're all literally cut to fuck. And he described her by an ear and 2 eyes. He had lived with this woman over a year. And like I said to you, he would have known...
He would have known everything.
Moles.
Yeah.
Like anything on that body.
Identifying features.
Anything.
But the body had been slashed. And as you said earlier, unrecognisable.
He didn't even mention the fact that she had auburn red hair.
Nope.
But then how would you know if you're covered in blood? She could be a blonde person.
Wow. This comes back to, obviously, all of her nicknames, which I'm sure we'll probably get into later.
Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary was a nickname of hers. Yeah. Because of her temper. Yeah. I didn't write any others down, but they're all quite funny.
You got Black Mary because apparently she was dark auburn hair. Or dark brunette. Then you had Fair Emma because of her lily white skin. And her lover couldn't point something. Her lover couldn't point any of this out. Nope.
He's based all of the examination on blue eyes and an ear.
Blue eyes and an ear.
And like I said to you, how many ears look identical?
How many eyes look identical?
Especially when your body is fucked up as this.
Yes.
And this is what makes me believe that it wasn't her.
Nope.
Right.
And there was, sorry, I just want to include, it wasn't just Joseph Barnett that identified the body.
No, go on.
It was also John McCarthy, the landlord. He also went with Joseph to identify. And they both agreed that the 2 eyes and the ear
was hers.
Was hers.
Because you definitely see the ears when your hair is constantly down.
And you'll definitely see the eyes looking at you.
When your face is fucked beyond recognition.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Them eyes are going to be prominent. And may I just add, when you die, your eyes lose colour.
Yep.
So that increases your 80% of blue eyes now.
Yep.
Because all it takes is for someone to die and their eyes lose colour. Fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Now I guess we're going to tap into some theories and go over some other little factors that play a massive part in my theory and thought process anyway. Whether it be yours as well, but you're going to agree with me nonetheless. Because you don't think the person that was cut up to fuck in that room is Mary Jane Kelly.
No.
And nor do I. So we've got to agree for once.
Yeah. At least on this first bit. Yeah. We will definitely agree.
Okay, the property of Mary Jane Kelly was locked. So, as I said, no one broke in and the door was locked from the outside. Therefore, the person that would have left Mary Jane Kelly's would have had a key. There was only 2 keys, considering the police had to break down the door because the landlord didn't have the other one.
Yep.
Joseph had a key and Mary had a key. Both keys haven't been found. That's why they broke down the door. Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. So whoever committed the crime, or whoever left, locked the door and was the owner of that property.
saying that there was 2 keys, and obviously Joseph had one with he was
and
at
Mary
his
had one.
home,
Yeah.
and Mary had one. They never found the key inside the house.
No, because Mary took it.
Exactly. It's just it pains me.
I also seem to come to the conclusion that Mary Jane Kelly didn't go home.
Okay. What to?
Like, you know when George noticed her leave, or noticed someone leave?
Yeah.
I don't think she went back.
Okay. Interesting.
I think she spent the night out. Travelling. Or going somewhere. Because people saw her early hours that morning. And if George had a good look at Mary, and Mary's clothes were different, she had changed her clothes.
True.
So the person that remained in Mary Jane Kelly's after that alleged someone left is the victim, but not Mary Jane Kelly. That's what I'm basically saying.
Yeah.
So whoever was laying there, it had to be a woman. And don't forget, we know Mary Jane Kelly took people in to stay at hers because of, you know, you go around in
what's
groups.
Going around.
Yeah, what's going around. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me already.
See, mine differs a little bit. Like, I believe that she did go back.
Right.
But with whoever she left in there.
See, I went with the theory of she left her place and allowed the woman to stay at hers to keep safe. Because the other person didn't have somewhere to go. And thus, whoever did enter Mary Jane Kelly's to kill her thought that was Mary Jane Kelly. And mutilated the fuck out of her.
That I get.
Yeah.
That I agree. It's the person who left, that shady person who left.
Yeah.
I believe was Mary.
She also knew she had to be off the streets.
Yeah.
That was another question that I had. Like, they were all told to stay off the streets at a certain time.
Everyone was told.
Yeah. So to me, it's kind of thinking like, did she know that she could have been next? Considering her friends were taken before.
Yeah, it did seem a bit odd, like a bit weird. Like, obviously we talk about in the last couple that they all knew each other.
Yeah.
And they were all in that
group
gaggle of women.
Yeah.
It does seem a bit.
So does it make you think that someone may have given Mary a heads up to leave?
Well, maybe she thought herself. You know what I mean? Like she's seen her.
And I'm also questioning.
She's seen her 4 friends die.
Right. So I'm also questioning. She's asking people for money, right? Yet her boyfriend pays her rent.
And it is behind because obviously they had the argument.
Now, I'm also thinking,
where's the money going?
Yeah, where did she
it's
put
not
that money?
All on food.
Yeah. And one little thing we did miss out of the investigation part of the post-mortem of the body. It was, what was it, fish and potatoes?
She had a hearty meal of fish and potatoes. And they only know this because some was still left undigested in the intestines.
Now, I also found out Mary is allergic to fish. Or allegedly, she would never touch fish. So I'm curious why fish would be in someone who wouldn't eat it.
I'm also curious why would she go around with a fish butcher? Not being, you know. Well,
maybe that's why
you don't like fish, so you go, you know, I'm gonna bed a fishmonger.
Yeah, but that was good money.
True, but
that was good money.
It was good money at the time.
Yeah,
I will give him that. But you would expect, you know, all that. Oh, I've got a juicy bit of.
I just thought after Mary's had a night out on the town and he comes home from work, they both smell the same.
Touche, sir. Touche.
Fish fingers.
No, cod roe. Oh, pollock. No, cod.
That's just what she called him. You pollock. Shut up, love, and get me better. Let me see your fish cake.
Get on with it.
Don't know why I'm sniffing my finger.
Got smell fishy in it, look.
Sorry. So with 2 reports stating they saw Mary Jane Kelly, despite her time of death, makes no sense. Especially as another witness came forward saying they saw Mary Jane Kelly that morning in the pub at 10:12 a.m. buying something to eat. Weirdly enough, the witness statements were dismissed by Detective Aberline, who claimed he did not know Mary Jane Kelly, but they had often been seen talking on the odd occasion.
Yep.
This detective's shifty as fuck. He's dismissing everyone's statements, going, no, that was her. That is her. I could tell by the eyes and the hair and the birthmark. I think.
What birthmark?
Exactly. But during a bit more of my research on Mary Jane Kelly's death, there was an author called Tony Williams. He claimed in 2005 Mary Jane Kelly had been found on the 1881 census return to Brimbo near Wales. Yeah. This claim came from a neighbour to Kelly's family, who said Davis was alive, not dead, and Mary had returned home. That's curious in itself. So, judging by all of this, what is your thoughts? Go on, sir.
Well, we already gathered that it's definitely not her.
The post-mortem doesn't make sense.
No. The times do not make sense either. Yep. Purely for a fact that I will tell you one witness statement, or one statement at least, that they took.
This would be one that I didn't write down that I handed over. Go on, sir.
Right, so this is from her neighbour, I would assume, upstairs.
Okay.
An Elizabeth Prater, or Prater.
We go Prater, sounds better.
It does sound better. She was a Prater. So she said in her statement, again, it's got times in there, that she was awoken between 3:30 and 4 a.m. by her kitten running across her throat.
Sorry. You get woken up by a kitten, and you can't hear.
Exactly.
You can't hear anyone being murdered below you.
Screams and shouts of murder, or there was
even just violence, mate. Because this whole hack job took 2 hours.
Exactly.
At least
2 hours from, the mortuary expert. To be fair. So you would hear something. You wouldn't just. Maybe the cat knew.
Someone's got. I don't trust this.
But she also said that she also went to the 10 Bells pub at 5:30 in the morning for a glass of rum.
You'd think they'd have it at home, wouldn't you? I mean, why? This 10 Bells pub is fucking popular. It's making money.
Exactly. Now, I put this to you. Could she be meeting Mary to say that everything has gone off well? Maybe she slips the money, because all of the timings allegedly are just after the murder had happened.
I'm also curious how many Irish women with bright auburn reddish hair are walking round and they could possibly get their statements wrong. They couldn't. You can't misjudge a pale Irish woman with red hair.
No. And if she was that liked within the community...
Oh, everyone knew her because of how she looked. Don't forget, even one of the detectives said she looked beautiful.
A buxom lady.
Sounds like something how you describe a horse.
A buxom beast.
Oi! So I'm now curious, do you think that, okay, so if we're going to run through Mary's life really quickly, did she run to the East End to live a life she felt she deserved instead of marrying at such a young age? She wanted to explore the world. So she went around telling everyone that her husband had died, but theoretically he hadn't. This is why she never married Joseph Barnett, or whatever his name was.
Yeah. She also got the basically the stigma about that she would always embellish the truths that she would tell. So maybe he didn't die.
I'm asking you a question. If you married at 16, and say it was kind of like one of them forced marriages, would you go, nah, fuck off, and leave?
If I didn't want it.
At 16, you're not going to want it.
Exactly.
You're going to want to live your life, surely. Up until at least your late 20s. So therefore, do you reckon that she lied about her husband being dead, and she just vanished and told a shitload of lies throughout the whole thing? Because she always wore really fancy clothing. Despite her, like you said, being a high-end escort. Like, she must have been raking it in.
Well, that's what I mean, like, high-end escorts, it's a fair amount of money. They're for the top-end clientele. You know, there's not necessarily, you know, you can take on average that a street worker would pick up probably about £1 a year. Like,
pound of what, semen? I'm tub for I made this year.
Currency.
Pound of semen.
But you think back then, obviously, she was only 29 shillings behind in her rent. And that would be a quarter of anyone's yearly earnings.
See, do you think that she knew whoever she took back to her place was going to get fucked up? If she did leave? If this person who was...
I believe she did. I reckon she just set them right up.
Really? You reckon she's that wicked?
It was a scapegoat. It was her only way to get back to Ireland.
You reckon she's that wicked?
All of that money.
You reckon she's that wicked?
Maybe it was even to cut all ties with the people that she knew or confided in.
May I also add, her DNA didn't match up either.
No.
The DNA to the body didn't match up to her clothes.
It was too badly...
her fingerprints either.
Fingerprints, it was, they were all stabbed by needles or slashed by knives. So you couldn't get couldn't get fingerprints with that. Couldn't get any DNA from the mouth because the lips and stuff were all slashed and cheeks were slashed. So,
you think your main theory is she set up this person and left. But we also discussed the possibility that she could have been Jill the Ripper.
Yeah.
She knew the women in question. They would often trust her and go back to hers, and then they would venture off later on.
Yeah.
There is a very strong possibility that because of her drunken anger, and they're taking all the money, why not? Like, if you work in a place where other women perhaps are making more money than what you are,
you're
gonna cut your losses. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna kill you, and kill you, and then everyone will come to me, and I'll make more money than what you women are. You disfigure them at least. Which is what happened to most of Jack the Ripper's victims in there or something, you know. Just
No. We discussed this anyway, but...
Do you reckon anyone gave her money to leave? Because this Detective Aberline is a fucking suspicious detective. Or inspector, however you want to call him.
Well, maybe it was a weird, perverse attempt at, like, the first witness protection. Maybe she knew who Jack the Ripper was, and they got her out. Okay, so why burn her clothes that she wore beforehand and then leave in some other clothes? That's one question I can't figure out. True. But then how would you throw someone off your scent? You'd go in, you would get new clothes for that day that you were going. Okay. You know, and she left all her other clothes neatly folded. You would burn all your others. You know, I don't know why she would. That bit bugs the hell out of me. How she would fold them? Why would you neatly stack clothes and then burn some? Maybe you burn the clothes that people have seen you in, so therefore you would put other clothes on, and hopefully by the time someone realises you're not there, your clothes are gone, and you've just disappeared. You're a ghost. Yeah. And maybe, just in case, whoever she met throughout them nights could have had DNA on her clothes. Yeah. And she could have made her escape, or she was told to burn her clothes. You got to think like a detective here. True. Burn your clothes,
That way you ain't got no one's going to be held up for the murder that happens in the room.
Again, or she set it all up and burnt the victim's clothes.
Do you reckon she's a conniving, lying little whorebag?
Oh, yes. Yes. Like,
is this what you're coming down with?
It's documented that she's a serial liar. Like,
but she hadn't lied. Truth. She hadn't lied about her money.
Maybe she's spending all of the money on these fancy clothes, but I very much doubt it.
Just seems a bit weird. Loads of people see an Irish redhead walking around the streets of London or Whitechapel, and yet apparently
in very fancy clothes.
And apparently she's dead
with rags.
Doesn't make sense. No. Well, we haven't really come up with any conclusion.
Okay, so the thing is
this your hypothesis?
When she passed away and when she was buried, allegedly, there was no family that could be found.
Because she went back home and she told her family to be quiet.
In her last lodgings, not when she was a thing, but in her last lodgings, her landlady, who she lived with, would often say that she would get correspondence from Ireland.
Question. Do you reckon she went back to Ireland, told her family she escaped possibly the devil, she had been told by an investigator to keep quiet, and the family just remained quiet ever since because they knew that she was next? I'm not being funny. Would your family protect you if you just faked your own fucking death or let someone fall for your death? Say you're in Mary Jane Kelly's position, right? And you rushed home.
It's a very well-to-do family.
You rushed home to your husband, who apparently is dead, and to your mum and dad, and basically said, look, this is what happened in the East End. I've been told by a detective, and maybe she had like a confirmation letter, and then all this money to live a lovely, peaceful life. Money talks.
It does. It does indeed.
So your main hypothesis and conclusion is?
She didn't die. And whichever way we agree that she got out, she got out.
I like going under the mental mindset that someone helped her escape because they all knew she was next. And they thought, okay,
going down the conniving little
lying bitch of a whore she was.
No, I reckon she definitely loved lying. So she embellished quite a lot of stuff. Maybe she embellished a bit too much.
I reckon they
pissed someone off.
I reckon they let another prostitute take the fall. Because that's just another number.
Yeah. Who cares?
They thought, okay, you take this woman back to your place.
You get out.
And someone
will come.
Yeah, someone's going to come in because you're next. And then because that person realised it wasn't Mary Jane Kelly, they literally fucked the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Knowing that they had trapped the killer, but they didn't know what time it had obviously happened. And with people seeing Mary Jane Kelly walk around on the fucking 9th of November when she died on the 8th, mate, well, that's just... You don't see ghosts, mate. Ghosts don't exist.
Wow.
Well, she did.
No, but... She could have gone under her married name, but there's yet one different thing. There was no marriage license.
She had nothing.
There was no marriage license for this Davies to a Mary Jane or a Mary Jeanette.
I would just like to say this Mary Jane Kelly, if she ain't dead, she is the connivingest bitch I've ever met in my life, and I absolutely adore this thought process.
When she also went away to France for, what was it, a year?
Yeah.
She allegedly got married to a Frenchman out there as well, and there was no Marie Jeanette ever married in that year. It took so long to go through ancestry stuff, marriage license stuff. Oi.
It wasn't that bad.
It was a whole year, mate. You tried.
I just know that
the names I couldn't pronounce.
I just know the key facts. The door was locked on the outside.
Yep.
There was 2 keys. Both were never found, apart from Joseph's, who obviously had his. But what I'm trying to get at is, if you butcher someone that bad and their blood is literally drained out of their body, your eyes change white.
Yep.
Blue, white. I would know that's you because of your earlobe.
Well, that one not so much, but that one I probably would. Maybe she had an earring on.
Did she?
I don't know.
Because no one's mentioned that.
No one mentioned that.
Next you're going to tell me she had a mobile phone next to her bed.
No, she got an email.
Did she? Was it from Ireland?
On www.deadmary.com.
Deadmary.com.
Don't write that in where we do.
I'm sure it'll lead you to Bloody Mary's website or something.
Probably.
But either way, I am a firm believer, I think, judging by all these statements and all this historical event, that she did travel back to Ireland, that the person that was killed wasn't Mary Jane Kelly. And even if she was killed, I don't think she was killed by the alleged Jack the Ripper. I think whoever killed her did a very poor job. Didn't do it as good as the other ones. Even though it's the most sadistic and maybe some people would say satanic, I don't think it was Jack the Ripper. I think they must have caught Jack the Ripper, whoever, or Jill, in that time frame.
And maybe it was just too higher class individual, maybe. I don't know.
Mate, you're in the East End. Everyone's a fucking wreck.
Yeah, but there are high officials that used to come down.
There's probably a higher fishmonger she could have got with as well. That doesn't make no difference.
I'm just saying. As we know, the author went and visited the East End at that time just to blow.
Are you now putting the author back in it?
No, I don't think it's him. I think it's just he's up to some other shady stuff that he can do whatever he wants.
He's weird.
But obviously, high-end people used to go to the East End on the weekends just to blow money away.
Or get blowed. Or in this case, or in this simple case, get done like a kipper.
Yes. Nice way to tie in the fishmonger.
It was good. It was good. It was good, mate. Better than your Pollock.
I think that was good. It's absolute Pollock.
I don't know. I just know whoever got with Mary obviously had some type of fish finger going on.
Probably walk away with a crustacean.
Delicious. Doesn't. None of that suit. None of that fits. Mary Jane Kelly's alive. Or she was alive. She's probably dead now. Yeah, she's bound to be dead now. 1988? 1888? Yeah, a bit about.
80 years.
Yeah, it's been 100 years, mate. Yeah. She's dead.
She's dead now, but not back then.
No. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Probably shed some light on possibly, like we said, the most horrific murder that allegedly Jack the Ripper did. Yeah, what are your thoughts? What are your theories on this? Because no matter what you go through, witness statements, time frames, nothing adds up.
And it, if anything, is too precise.
And I'm not being funny.
Anywhere between what 2 a.m. and 10 a.m.
And I'm not being funny. You'd see an Irish redhead walking around London. Everyone would pull. Everyone's horrible. A redhead would attract anyone's attention. You'd be like, fucking hell, she's on fire.
Oh, there she goes again.
But yeah, what are your thoughts? The fact that, like I said, take into consideration her face was unrecognisable. And when you die, you lose the colour of your eyes. And whoever left Mary Jane Kelly's left with the key. And yet the house wasn't broken into. Mind blown. Mind blown.
Unsettling.
Well, it's never going to be settled, is it?
No.
Nothing we do is settled. If we were crime investigators...
We agreed on one thing.
Yeah, but if we were crime investigators, we'd still be here.
It'd be like, no, go to the next one.
No. And that's what you guys are going to do. Go to the next one.